Hey everyone, this is the SMC Journal Show. I'm Scott Moore, that's Agent 503, and we welcome you to today's episode. This is a show where we talk about everything that has to do with software engineering. Today's video is about something near and dear to me. As many of you know, I am a performance engineer by trade, and so we do talk a lot about performance in software, tuning, monitoring, observability, optimization in general. We have talked about multiple load testing tools that have been on this show, but we've never really done a deep dive into Gatling. And today is Gatling's Day. In fact, Gatling is sponsoring this video, and we're going to talk about their new release, Gatling Studio. But more importantly, we want to talk about the problems that it's trying to solve in the industry, making the developer experience better, as well as that of the performance engineer, so that we can more easily deploy software the way it's supposed to be delivered today. If that interests you and you like this kind of content, give me a like on this video, subscribe to the channel. Let's go ahead and get started and get right to the interview. Hi, Stephane. Welcome to the SMC Journal Show. Great to have you on.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Scott. We're very happy to be here. So I'm Stephane Landelle. I'm the creator of Gatling and the CTO of the company behind the open source project. So we've been developing Gatling for more than a decade, and we also provide an enterprise suite built on top of the open source version. So a kind of classic open core model.
Yeah, and we talk a lot about performance testing tools on this channel, so I'm happy to get to talk to you. Take me back to the beginning. You said you've been doing this for over 10 years, and we now have this everything as code thing going on. But my
Mhm.
understanding is you guys have been test as code from the beginning. What kind of problems were you trying to solve when you started to bring Gatling to the market?
What's important to understand is that I'm not a performance engineer. I was a tech leader in developer teams, mostly in banks and insurance fields, and I was kind of struggling when it comes to load testing. It was more than a decade ago, and the tooling was pretty complicated. It was before the DevOps era, so there were both tooling issues that were also really meant for pre-DevOps era, where you would have one central team that would work as a kind of black box for the rest of the company, handling the load test on their end. And communication and cooperation with these teams were not always super optimal, because the load tests were being performed very late in the development life cycle, and it was kind of hard to onboard those performance engineers on the projects. I started wanting to have my teams at least start investigating performance issues on their end, and meaning use different tools than the ones used by the central teams. Those developer teams that I was belonging to uh, were more eager to have a code-oriented solution than having a GUI with click interface. On a daily basis, they were using an IDE. They were using programming languages such as Java, pushing their code in SVN, and this was the workflow they were familiar with, and that I was familiar with. So that's why I started investigating, a software that would let you define the test with code. Uh, I stumbled onto a software that was doing exactly that. It was called the Grinder. So the philosophy of this tool was what I was looking for, but I wasn't very happy with the implementation. It was kind of clunky. So I started building my own tool for my own needs. Back then, Scala started being very popular, and also, as I wanted very high performance, I was investigating a model that was very interesting back then. That was the Actor model. So, if you're not familiar, it's a kind of programming architecture that comes from Erlang, language from Ericsson, that's very popular in telecommunications. And there was a port on the JVM named Aka that was written in Scala. So that was how Gatling was born, based on Aka and written in Scala. Mhm.
My understanding is the thing that's been in front of your mind, you're talking about working with these developers, is to make the developer experience better for less friction of how they deploy software, but also keep the performance engineer in mind. So is that right?
Yes, that's absolutely correct. Uh, the the main idea was that you need performance engineers and top-notch technical experts to investigate the performance issues, find fixes, build a test strategy. This is where their main value is. It's not in crafting the test and maintaining the test, whether with a web UI or with code. So my idea was that performance engineers would focus on fixing performance issues, while developers who represent a vast majority of the IT department would do the plumbing and implement the test and craft them, maintain them when they change an API, update the test accordingly.
A lot of people who are have not looked at the tool in a long time may just think that, well, you support Scala. I don't write anything in Scala, but you actually support way more than that, right?
Scala is a great programming language. That's what we also use internally when we develop the backend for Gatling Enterprise. But we've had a Java SDK for 5 years. We've had so you can also use it with Kotlin. We also have released an SDK for JavaScript and TypeScript 1 year and a half ago. Those are very similar. Really, the goal with these SDKs to address resistance to change. Like Scala has a pretty scary reputation, so it can shy people away. And also, you can use Gatling with the programming language you're more familiar with the tooling that you're used to. We're not forcing Scala to you. Actually, it's kind of the contrary. I would mean that nowadays, we only recommend Scala for organizations where the Gatling users would be Scala developers. Instead, you should stick to a mainstream language like Java or TypeScript, and your onboarding will be way easier. Still, the different SDKs are very similar. So you can easily jump from one to another. You can have different teams using different SDKs and understand and help each other with no trouble at all.
So, as of this recording, you've just released Gatling Studio. Tell me about what's new about this and what additional problems that it can solve or issues that it solves. Why now? Who is it for? Who is it going to benefit?
Currently with Gatling, it's very easy to jump in if you're familiar with code, if you're familiar with the APIs that you want to test, like you have an open API documentation, these kind of things. If you're super familiar with what is going over the network, it's more complicated when you want to test an application that's a black box, like an application that has not been developed by your company, but that's a software you purchase, for example, or you're kind of siloed between the testers and the product team. So we for a very long time we've had a recorder that would let you record traffic and replay it, but it works as a proxy, and as a result, it's kind of complicated to properly configure. When it comes to HTTPS, you need to generate a root certificate. You need to install it in your web browser, and lots of users find this cumbersome, or don't know exactly how to do it, or sometimes they just don't have the permissions on their machine to do so. So we started investigating other means. I think more than 2 years ago. Our first tentative was going with a browser extension, but due to the restrictions that browser vendors now impose on extensions, it didn't work. So we decided to go with an based solution. So the goal with this application is to both help existing Gatling users with their crafting and their debugging for the Gatling test, and also help onboard new users who are not familiar with Gatling yet, and who need a more guided through workflow. Okay, record this, then filter some domains that you're not interested in, then possibly generate some code. So this is basically where we currently are with this first iteration of the studio. But then, so we finally have a kind of user interface that is not only the IDE, where we can bring more features for the end users during the crafting and the debugging phase. So we'll be able to bring features to help you with automatic correlations, test correlations, compare the generated traffic with the one that was recorded and kind of expected, diff results. If, for example, the application and the test starts changing and the test now break, you will be able to figure out why it broke, see the differences between the payloads, these kind of things, and typically bring AI features, for example, help assist you with with uh, with with discovering Gatling features, so that you don't have to dig into the tens of pages of documentations we have for our different SDKs, these kind of things.
So I understand we have a demo of this because I know a lot of people are going to want to see this in action. Let's go to that demo.
Gatling Studio is a standalone application that lets you capture browser-based activities and instantly convert it into a fully functional Gatling load test. Let's have a look. Here we are on the homepage for Gatling Studio. The first step to creating a load test is to record a journey. So let's start there. Click record, and the option that comes up has a preloaded URL for Gatling's demo application. Let's give that a shot. We click start recording, and it opens a Chrome window, and it will auto-load the page. So now we just need to act like your typical user. So I'll scroll down to look at the product. I'll add one product to my cart. I see that there's some t-shirts, but there's also more than one page. So maybe I'll try to search for t-shirt instead so I can see all of the options. Today, I would like to buy a red t-shirt, but let's click on the image and go to the details. Bargain for $99, add to cart. And now I'll log in so that I can check out. Let's go back to the cart and check out. Okay, so now we've completed the buyer journey. We'll close the Chrome window, which will automatically end the recording. And we can see here back in Gatling Studio that we have the journey has been successfully recorded message. Let's give it a good name. Let's call it Gatling Buyer Journey and click Save. Now, back in Gatling Studio, we can see all of the steps of the recording. This includes each request, the type of request, and the address that the request went to. So you can see pretty typically, like, we loaded the page, there's HTML, CSS, JavaScript, PNG requests. You can get more information about each request by selecting it and then looking at the details. Includes the request and the response, if there's a body, and the raw format. But this isn't very useful yet for us load testers. So let's click the add scenario button to create a load test scenario from our recording. Okay, so now we have the requests isolated down. The static resources have been excluded. We can toggle this if we want to put them back in. And we have a list of the domains that were used during the buyer journey. Let's click filter the recording. And now we have the scenario produced. This has each endpoint in order with the captured pauses between each endpoint. So this gives you the experience that's kind of very close to what the natural buyer was doing instead of artificially creating pauses. From here, when we want to move on to having a fully functional test, we have the export project option. So let's click that. We have to choose a base URL. We'll pick the API URL because it's the most frequently used, and we'll click export. Let's put this on the desktop, and now we have a zipped project on the desktop. I'll unzip this and navigate inside so you can see the contents. The project comes with a README file, some configuration files like the POM XML file, the Maven wrapper, and an SRC folder. The README file contains all of the details that you need to be able to run the project on Gatling's Enterprise Edition. And if we go into the SRC file quickly, I will show you in the Java example folder the simulation. Let's open this in IntelliJ, and you can see the simulation structure. It includes all of the typical things that you need, like the import statements and the simulation class. And if we scroll down, we can see the detailed scenario here, include each of the endpoints and any assets that are required to make the request functional, such as like bringing in the headers or other data. I'll scroll all the way down to the bottom to just show you the final piece, which is the setup block, which is how we control the number of injected users. This comes pre-baked with a very simple injection profile that just adds one user once, but we could change this very easily to accommodate the profile that we need for our load tests. Let's click back over to Gatling Studio quickly and just highlight the fact that in addition to the very easy workflow that we just went over, there's a couple of other features that you might be interested in. There's the workplace selection, which lets you organize your work, and there's a settings tab, which lets you do things like specify the exact browser that you want to use for creating your tests. It has to be a Chromium browser, but otherwise the choice is yours. That's it for this quick overview of Gatling Studio. I hope you enjoyed it, and please give it a try.
So thanks for showing us that demo. Where do you see this going? Because I know you're going to get feedback from users, and you encourage that. Where do you see the next year with features or additions or the direction of this product?
Yeah. The goal is really to make crafting tests way easier and also debugging way easier. So we want to bring automatic correlations, being able also to inject data, possibly generate data automatically, test data. We want to really integrate with Gatling itself. So it's not just recording traffic and then dumping code and then end of the story, but we want a kind of feedback loop with the generated code, so you'll be able to run it from the studio and compare the generated traffic with what was previously recorded, so you can diff it and figure out what went wrong, and embed an AI agent so that you can have some advices on crafting the different step of the test, helping you with the injection profile typically, and give you some hints on the results. So this is what we have for the studio. We're also currently working on helping with test analysis. AI shines in two particular fields. The one is being a super great documentation search engine and recommendation engine. So this is more something that would go in the studio. And the other one is trying to find patterns and analyzing huge amount of data. If you have a look at Gatling Enterprise currently, we give you lots of different dashboards so that experts can figure out what's going on. And for example, figure out first if their test went as expected, like checking the health of the load generators to see if you are not saturating them and if your test results are already meaningful. Then check if you are not saturating your edges, like if you have lots of connection refused, TLS handshakes, timeouts, these kind of things. And then only after that, trying to figure out which requests were really problematic and that you need to investigate with your APM solution on the server side. But currently, we just throw you the whole dashboard with all the different charts, all the different metrics, and it's up to you to figure out what happens. For non-expert users, it's kind of waste of time. Basically, what you expect from a test is to get an alert when things get wrong, and otherwise just do something more, do something else. So we want to bring automatic analysis on the test results. We're currently in proof of concept phase. It's pretty interesting, very promising. So this is something that we'll start iterating on next year. We expect the first release to be in January.
Awesome. So it sounds like the vision is really to go from just being a load testing tool to a performance engineering solution and platform. Is really what you want to do.
Yeah. This is really what we intend to build for the end users. We are kind of also considering really helping with the performance test workflow, being able to build campaigns. So having a more structured workflow for iterating test over and over again and comparing test over time. So we build a workflow for load test campaigns and different applications, and also give that monitoring dashboards for the load testing activity. dashboards for the manager so that you can see what's the state of the performance testing for the different teams.
If somebody has watched the demo, they've seen this interview, and they want to know more, where can they find out more about Gatling Studio?
So you can just directly download it on our website. If you want to give some feedback, the right place is typically GitHub. And we already had great feedback from community members, like someone really helping us with properly configuring it when working in corporate network behind proxies. This is typically the kind of things we need. We need help from the community because we can build something in our labs, but all corporate networks come with their own tweaks.
That's
So
true.
it really helped a lot. Yeah, we're really looking for feedback and both finding bugs and also giving feedback if we're heading in the right direction. If it's something that the community are waiting for and eager for.
We'll make sure we put the links
So,
in the description below, and they can comment, and you guys will be able to see that too. Thanks so much for being on the SMC Journal show today. We appreciate it.
thanks a lot, Scott.
So thanks again for Gatling for being on the show and sponsoring this video. If you really want to check out Gatling, all you got to do is go to their website at gatling.io, and you can check out Gatling Studio. And as he said, the feedback that they want is through GitHub, which is where most of you developers live. Anyway, it's a technical tool, supports a lot of different technologies. They're coming a long way in just the last couple of years since I checked them out. So I'm glad that we focused on Gatling today. If you need to leave a comment and let me know what you think about this new Gatling Studio after you see it, go ahead and put a comment in the video. You can also reach out to me. I'm pretty easy to find. If you ever want to reach out to me through LinkedIn or social media, I'm pretty much always out there. You can also send me an email at heyscott@smcjournal.com. Would love to hear from you. And once again, if you like this content, it would be great if you subscribe to the channel, give me a like. It really helps me out, and it lets other people find the channel easily as well. So for this episode of the SMC Journal Show, I'm Scott Moore, thanking you once again for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.